again, everybody. Today I'm back with something I've not done in a little while now, and that is a Top 5 Wednesday. Now, the reason I'm back this week is because this week's subject is one that I'm really interested in talking about. I've got a lot of stuff I can suggest for it. It's actually one I had about 12 on my original list, and I've had to cut it down to 5, which was the hardest part about doing this video by a long shot. But this week's Top 5 is Top 5 books that you'd like to see converted into TV series. Personally, I'm a much bigger fan of books being converted to TV series than film. I think with a film, you've got to get a 300-word book down into a 2, if you're lucky, 2.5 hour film. With a TV series, you've normally got at least 10 episodes, 45 minutes at least each. You're talking, that's more quick maths here, Joe, this isn't working. That's like nearly 8 hours as opposed to 2 hours. And so you just get to explore a lot more of the things that would be cut from a film, make it into TV series, and you get a much deeper understanding of the source material and the world that's created and the characters. So that's why I think TV series are better than films for book adaptations. And I've got today 5 books which I think are perfectly suited for that, with some little ideas of how I think they should go. Obviously, with all my TV directing experience and screenwriting, I'm going to nail this. But just some basic thoughts about what I think these TV series could look like. So first up is a book that has actually already been converted to a film, but a really god-awful one. It's World War Z. So the film, in fairness, I was a bit harsh, isn't that terrible. It's just not World War Z. World War Z is essentially it's basically framed as a report that's being presented to a conference on the zombie apocalypse that happened. And basically it takes the form of lots of little interviews and statements by people from different parts of the world that worked like soldiers, people that worked in disease control, people that were just generally involved in the outbreak, that were there when it happened, that were involved in some of the battles and the recoveries. It's like a really interesting, almost like documentary style piece, and that's not what the film was like at all. In this, there's probably 30, 35 characters that are interviewed at a couple of different points to kind of map out a full time scale and story of the outbreak. And I think you could do a really good thing where each episode could be focused on a particular person's stories, or you could group a few people together, do a couple of the soldiers' bits together, and just do it as a kind of interviewee, flashback, mockumentary style TV series. Would be a lot more fitting to the source material, and I think a lot more interesting and unusual as well. Now, of course, it wouldn't be one of my videos without me mentioning Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So, in my last video where I talked about Game of Thrones and books to read if you've enjoyed that, I talked about Red Rising. So this is Editing Joe realising that I've not quite uploaded the videos in the order I thought I was going to, meaning that you haven't actually seen the video I'm talking about here yet. So, at least you know what's coming up next on the channel. That should be up in the next week or so. But for now, ignore my poor planning and just pretend you know what I'm talking about. And because it's very similar in its scale, it's sci-fi rather than fantasy, but it's got lots of political intrigue, a really well-crafted world, really interesting characters. And I think that's the exact reason why it would benefit from the Game of Thrones treatment and be like a nice, long-form TV show, much like Game of Thrones. You could easily dedicate each week 50, 55 minutes to really getting into the characters and the world that's created, and it would be fascinating. It is so similar to Game of Thrones in the way it's formulated and the feel of it, that it would just translate so well to a very similar kind of TV show. Carrying on the kind of sci-fi fantasy bint, The Passage, I think would also be brilliant. It's a epic fantasy of sorts. Very much, you can see the inspiration from things like Lord of the Rings. There's long journeys, there's a really big, dramatic, epic end goal thereafter. But it's kind of got a vaguely horror setting. It really makes vampires terrifying again. And I hate Twilight with an absolute passion, and the kind of spate of vampire fiction that's come from that. But this has really undone a lot of that damage for me, and it really makes vampires interesting again. But again, it's got such a big scale and crafts such an interesting world and amazing cast of characters. Really, really brilliant. And as you can see, they're all quite weighty books. They're all about the same thickness. And I just think they could create a really interesting long-form TV series. It explores a lot of issues about what humanity is and how we rebuild and how we cope when so much of the world has been taken from us by these vampire creatures. It's just a really interesting story which I'd love to see explored over a longer time period. So the next one is a bit different, actually quite a lot different to The Passage, but has got some common themes. And it's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. So this is about a blind girl living in Paris who's evacuated to a small little beautiful town on the northwest coast of France during the Second World War. and about a German boy, a young German boy who's recruited into the Hitler Youth and the German army on that end. It's really, really, really beautiful, powerful novel, and it's the kind of thing I could imagine being made into like a BBC One Sunday night TV series, and the vein of War and Peace and those kinds of things. It's just a really beautiful story, really well-crafted characters, it's got really poignant message, and it's actually really powerful. I generally don't like war fiction. I don't know why. It just doesn't appeal to me. Whether it's because I can't relate to it, whether it's because I think it's something that's been really well trodden, I just don't generally pick up a book if I read World War II, World War One setting. It doesn't interest me. This one I picked up after so much insistence from other people, and I absolutely loved it. I think it would be a brilliant TV series, really suited to that kind of BBC One 6-8-parter Sunday afternoon TV show. It'd be great, and I'd love to see that happen. The last one then is the one that I think is the most unusual, and that's The Loney by Andrew Michael Hurley. So this is kind of part mystery, but I wouldn't call it a crime book by any means. It's very gothic, it really creates an amazing atmosphere and amazing setting. It's kind of set on the northwest coast of the UK, and it's just a really powerful, moody, atmospheric book. It deals with a lot of things quite philosophical, a lot of things about religion and how people interact with that and rely on that. Deals with a lot of questions of kind of supernatural elements, and it's just incredibly gothic. It's got a lot of Wuthering Heights in it, that kind of feel, and I just think it'd be a really interesting thing to see realised on a screen. I'd be really intrigued to see how they do it. Would it be easy to do? But I think if they nailed it, it could be a really powerful TV show. So there we have it. That's my top 5 books I'd love to see made into TV series. It's a really interesting mixture between kind of things you'd want as shorter 6-8-part TV series, things you'd want longer multi-series program adaptations of. It's just a really interesting mixture of books, and I think they're all things that would really benefit from this form as opposed to film, but that also would look really good realised on a screen. I'm going to leave a link down below in the description to the Top 5 Wednesday Goodreads group in case anybody else is interested in knowing what's coming up, getting started on doing these kind of videos. It's a really interesting group. It's a really good way of getting involved with the community, and I just really enjoy doing it, especially when the topics are as good and interesting as this one. As always, a like and a subscribe is always really appreciated, and comment down below if you've got anything you think would make a really good TV series, or if there's anything that you think that has particularly done this super well that should be emulated. Do just let me know. I'm always intrigued to know what you guys think. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with my next video.